All right, the time has finally come, and I got me a buffer tank for my chiller. Everybody's been doing this, and I figured, all right, I'll go ahead and do it. So I've been running a chiller for years now. Just my water chiller as the only cooling component for my computer. Of course, pumps and tubing, but the only thing that cools it is the chiller. So when you have a water chiller like this and you don't have a buffer tank, of course there's a buffer tank inside of the chiller. The thing is when you go and play like a video game and your system is drawing 600 to 800 watts, it doesn't matter how much wattage really, you can set a temperature of 15 Celsius like it is right now. The chiller runs, cools the water down to 15 Celsius. You're playing the game, you've got low temps, it's wonderful. Your system is rapidly heating up that water because it's only a small amount of water and it's pumping really fast. You've got your CPU heating it up, you've got your memory heating it up, you've got your GPU that is also heating the thing up. And with all of these components heating up this liquid, the water is going to reach a warmer point faster than your chiller can realize that it needs to kick itself back on. So what's going to end up happening is your water chiller water temperature will actually exceed where you want it to. So if you set it to 15 C, you're playing a game, your water warms up to 16 Celsius, 17 Celsius, 18 Celsius, even 19 Celsius, and the chiller's like, oh, wait a second, we got to turn back on. And it turns on and it has to warm that water back up. You got to cool it back down. And this is why people use buffer tanks. And also just using your computer inside Windows, etc., and things like that. It will run every 3-4 minutes, maybe every 5 minutes, just to cool the water back down, because you're just warming up that water. The advantage to having a buffer tank is you have this large capacity of water, and this water is all going to be the same temperature as what's in the chiller. So because of this, when your water is set to 15 Celsius and the chiller is like, okay, we're at 15 Celsius, we're going to turn off, it turns off. Your system is going to stay 15 Celsius, and then it'll slowly warm up at a much slower rate. And when it reaches 16 Celsius, 16.5 Celsius, boom, your chiller has time to recognize that it needs to turn back on. You investigating that tank? You gotta do investigation there, something new. So it allows it enough time for the delayed reaction of your chiller to turn back on and say, hey, the water's getting warm, let's cool it back off, here we go. And it doesn't warm up past where it needs to be, because without a tank, even though your chiller has a built-in tank that's about a gallon, it's still not enough water. And it's going to tell itself to turn on, and your water is already 17, 18 Celsius, then it turns on, your water is 19 Celsius, and then it has to cool it back down even further to 15. And it's a rinse and repeat cycle. There's a way to avoid that by setting the water chiller to a level below where it can cool to. For example, if I take my chiller and I set the water to 8 Celsius, it can't reach that in a game pulling 600-700 watts. It may on some days, but typically it cannot. So it'll just run and run and run and run the entire time I'm playing the game, which is also fine as well. However, then you have to deal with condensation, because you're setting a temperature too cold for the chiller. It's going to go below the dew point, and you are essentially going to develop moisture on your system. So it's always been kind of a mild issue for me with a water chiller. That's why I got a buffer tank. The buffer tank is 10 gallons, and the reason why I went with 10 gallons is because apparently if you're after water accuracy for the temperature, you want to go over 6 gallons. 6 to 10 gallons or more, depending on what you're cooling, of course. And it's going to maintain that constant water temp, right? So that was my whole thinking behind this idea. That's a big coil on this thing here. It's gorgeous. Got us some tubing as well. And just for you guys out there who are curious, this actual unit here has 1/2 inch threads into the PVC. As far as I understand, the tank itself is actually a 1/4 inch thick plastic. It's 10 gallons. This is 1/2 inch. This here is also a 1/2 inch thread. These are 1.5 inch, 1.5 inch. Here's the adapters here that are gonna take a 1/2 inch male down to 1/4 inch female. So you just take these and you screw these into, I'm gonna put some little tape seal stuff on there to make sure that these are, of course, sealed. A little difficult to thread into the first time. There we go. And now we have got ourselves a 1/4 inch thread that will accept a traditional PC fitting, like that 90-degree elbow right there. Really cheap one. So these are cheap. The tank itself, I think it was like 72 bucks. But it is from Class A Customs right there. This is actually an RV water tank. You can see it's like some of the manufacturing glue there. But this thing is very thick, and it's exactly what I wanted. 10 gallons to hold my water. So how I'm gonna set this up is I'm going to make this my outlet, and this will be my inlet. I'm not sure if I'm gonna fill it all the way with water, but I'm definitely gonna use at least 8 gallons, most likely. So I gotta get me several gallon jugs of distilled water, and this will, I'm gonna run some additional D5s. I'm gonna have a D5 on the inlet, or the outlet, and then another on the inlet. I may even direct thread the pump right into the inlet outlet, meaning take a G1/4 inch to G1/4 inch male and run it right off it, and then just run my tubing from there, just to make sure I get a lot of flow. So right now water flow is really good, but with a water chiller you want flow. You want, and not necessarily flow rate, you want water pressure. You want a lot of water pressure, okay? That's the most important thing. I've actually seen a chiller not work as well under heavy loads. It'll work okay in windows and running benchmarks because you chill the water down, it's cold, you run a benchmark, it slowly warms up. But if you're doing a sustained load, you want a lot of water flow. A lot of guys even run those Eheim 1260 pumps that are 110 volts, and they get the wireless key fob to turn them on and off. Boom, turn them on, turn the computer on, they're good to go. I'm not getting into none of that. I mean, they're not that expensive. Of course, it's something I can do, but my water flow right now, the water pressure is really good with 4 pumps. So I'm gonna add a couple more. I may add 1 more, I'm not sure yet. I think 5 would probably be sufficient. I'm gonna do the tubing as short as possible, and this is gonna be on the floor. So I'm looking forward to it. This is gonna be something that keeps that water 15 to 16.5 Celsius at all times, whether I'm in a game, whether I'm on my desktop, and it's not gonna cycle as much. That's one thing about a water chiller, where if you're in windows just doing something, you're gonna hear your chiller kicking on and off. It's not that loud, and it sounds like a little mini fridge. Mine's running right now. And it's not loud, right? It's not overbearingly loud. It's like it's almost like it's like a refrigerator. That's really the only way I can kind of put that. But you know, aside from that, I'm looking forward to seeing the results, right? My cats aren't even afraid of the water chiller. They sleep on it and stuff like that. So this is Cece. Hey, she. Oh, look at that beautiful kitty. So, anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video. I'm gonna get this bad boy hooked up. I gotta get some water. I think I've got like 1.5 gallons over there, and we're gonna get this thing rolling. Thanks everybody. See you later.